What's up guys, Shawnthebro here, and today I'm going to show you how we can transfer all the projects that we're currently working on over to Unreal Engine 5. It's not required that you do this. To my knowledge, they are completely interchangeable at the moment outside of specific technology to Unreal Engine 5. So everything in Unreal 4 will work in Unreal 5, and everything in Unreal 5 that is not specific to that will work in Unreal 4. So I will do my best to not limit any of your projects to working in Unreal 4 or Unreal 5. I'm trying to make sure they work in both. I know a lot of people have already taken the leap and transferred their projects over and seem to do well and not have issues. I want to put out a video, show you live basically what I'm running into and how I solve it when converting these series. So one thing for sure that we're going to need to keep an eye on is something like our plugins that we put in the game. Even though I haven't really put in any plugins yet, I technically have. So I did put out another episode on this prior when early access Unreal Engine 5 came out, and I showed you how you could convert your Unreal Engine 4 project to Unreal Engine 5. I did a just general episode, general guide using one of my templates and just kind of how you could do it. But I did not show the actual process that you'd have to go through for converting these projects entirely over. So we're going to go through all of them today. I'm going to go over the fighter template, the FPS tutorial, the Super Smash Bros. And platform fighter tutorial, the third person and action RPG tutorial, and the side scroller from the live stream episodes. So I'm going to go over all those today. We'll just get started in this order. So we're going to start with our fighter template, converting it to Unreal 5. So right now I was on 4.24. And I have, this is my project location here, where it's at. When we try and use this in Unreal Engine 5, if we try and open this guy up, and basically the way you get to this, just in case you aren't aware, is if you go to your Epic Games launcher and you have Unreal Engine 5 installed. If you don't, you can click this little plus and choose the version. You just want 5.0.0. Doesn't say early access anymore. Launch it once it's installed. This will pop up automatically. Then just find your projects and they can easily be opened from here. When you do this, you'll get this message that says this project was made with a different version of Unreal Engine. Converting to this version will rebuild your code projects. Now, it goes on to talk to you about what this entails, and we can either open a copy instead of damaging the original, or we can go right for it. Because I'm going to be doing this live, I'm going to actually open a copy. It's going to create a copy. Now, this can take some time, depending on the size of your project. Some of our projects are pretty big already with the assets we have, but yours may be much larger or much smaller, depending on what it is that you're doing and how far along you are. Once the bar reaches 100%, it'll do something like this, where it may give you errors, it may say 0%, it may fail out for a numerous amount of reasons. This is okay. I expected this. What we really want to do at this point is go, take a look at this message and then try and fix the issue. So there's a few things that it mentions here. This first part we don't really care about in my opinion, because this is saying that it's skipping the software development kit setup, SDK setup for iOS, Android, Linux, and Linux Arch 64. Well, I don't care about any of that for this game, so I don't really need it. You can see that I have an error here, which this is actually an error for something that I've included when working with rollback netcode. And funnily enough, it is a GGPO with UE4 plugin, and it does not work with the UE5 version. There's no update to it yet, and something we'll have to look into if we decide to go the UE5 route. However, it's not something we've covered in the series to this point. I should mention this now. So this is to episode 114 of the Fighting Game Tutorial series. That's how far along we are where we're converting this. So for me, I'm going to go into where I have my GGPO for UE4 plugin, and I'm actually going to remove it. I still have it in my UE4 version, and of course I will use it in there as necessary, upgrade as necessary, and we can always do it again later. But now that I've removed it from here, I should be able to technically open up the uproject file. If I can, then it will run correctly, and theoretically we can use our fighting game in Unreal Engine 5. There are some other plugins here, and this is what I mentioned, where they are required for certain stages to be, to look the same and to really be made because they're made with building blocks. So if I decide not to download this, it actually won't let me continue unless I disable it or remove it from the uproject file. So I'm going to hit no, and what I actually want to do is make sure we install these plugins. Okay, so the way you can do this is, you see, these are the ones that I have in, these are the ones I have for the fighting game tutorial, and these are the 3 that we will be using. They need to be updated, and they probably should, but let's ignore that for now. We have our vault down here, and we can add them to projects and versions. So really what I should do is find these ones, like the blockout tools, hit install to engine, and if it is compatible, you'll be able to see it here. You'll be able to select the engine that you want to install it to, or you can choose to install it to all the compatible engines. In this case, I'm not able to install this to Unreal Engine 5 yet, so I'm not able to actually use that as I need to. Let's take a look at the other ones. Substance is actually the same deal. And the last one would be the asset cleaner, which again, I don't really need. But you can see none of them actually transfer over to Unreal 5. And if I update them, I can update both of them, but neither of them will actually be supported on Unreal 5. So you can check, make sure yours are up to date, see if they're compatible, go through this process, and if they're not, then you might have to wait. You might want to wait to swap over to 5.0. If you don't have these plugins, again, I only have them for the stages, so I can actually disable them and we can continue to play the game. It can always be updated later. However, there is a way to get around this, and that's, as I said, we can disable the plugins. So there's actually 2 ways to do it. One, when you're trying to launch the project, you can of course see if it is compatible, and if not, it pops up with that message box you saw earlier. You can disable it from there. You can also actually edit the U project by clicking on it and then looking at open with, and open it with like a notepad, like Notepad++. You have the plugins here that are enabled. This is the only one that is in this file at the moment. The other ones aren't being used, so they're not actually added to the plugins list. And you can see that I do have it enabled here, and that's why I'm not able to launch Unreal 5, because this plugin doesn't work. I can change this to enabled false for all the plugins that don't have an Unreal 5 compatible version. And then when I come back here to my File Explorer, I can actually launch this now. You can see this is the 5.0 version. We'll try launching it again and see what happens. So it requires things to be rebuilt. If you see that, that's a good sign. That means that there's no issues with plugins or anything starting the project, but can it actually build the code to, actually create everything that it needs to for us to be able to run the game? So we're going to find that out next. Everything updated, and you can see they still weren't compatible, so that just wasn't an option for me. Okay, and you can see this is a perfect example. This one was not able to be compiled, so it says try rebuilding from source manually. Now, you may know what that means by now, but basically that means it wants you to go into the solution file, fix any issues with the code, and build again. So I opened up the solution. This is the UE5 solution, so it is going to have some issues loading the loading your original tabs, or it's just going to crash, like you saw there. But just be persistent with it. It'll eventually get through and be like, okay, I can stay open. And then once it is, get this into a spot you can see most of it. But now I can see that, it's looking for this UE4, and that's not found. So the issue here is that this source is not actually compatible with the uproject file. It didn't actually generate a new one. Well, technically it did, but it didn't generate based off what we need. Now that we can get the uproject open, we need to get rid of the solution file, right-click on the uproject file, and generate Visual Studio project files. This is going to go through the generation process again. We're going to now go into this new solution. Now in the new solution, you can see it has UE5, not UE4, and it also has your source. So I can go into something like my fighter template character. Okay, and you can see my code is there. Now the question is, can I build these projects? So if I build the solution without any changes, without even looking at any of the code, I mean, you can verify that all your code's there if you want, but I know it is. I recognize the code in the fighter template. I've seen it a lot. So it looks all good up till the episode 114, which is the last episode to come out. And so I'm trying to build the solution. We're going to see if it succeeds. If it succeeds, then we can open up the U project and proceed as normal. But if not, we have to figure out what changed that caused an error to occur between Unreal Engine 4 and Unreal Engine 5. Okay, and you can see that this actually failed. This is another good example. That way you can kind of see what's going on here. So let's see where mine failed. Mine actually failed here. I have 3 errors with the landed function. I believe these are all the landed function. Yep, 3 errors in the landed function, all with this F hit result, excuse me. And it is saying that hit does not have this actor member. So what I'm going to do is assume that this function or these variables changed. So instead of hit.actor.get, this probably has something like a getActor function. And see, I really did not know that. This is the first time I'm doing it. But you can see that there's literally a getActor function. And there you go. And now that works, and this should return the same thing. Utility to return the actor that owns the component that was hit, and that is what we're trying to do. So instead of actor.get, we just do .getActor. And once we do this in all these places, you can see that the engine code has changed a bit. That's why you have to do that, is because some of the code in this UE5 section here has changed. So in UE4, you know, getActor wasn't a thing, or if it was, I never used it that way. I used the actor.get. But in Unreal 5, getActor is the only available option there, or at least one of the available options that does the same thing. And so now it built successfully. So I can probably launch directly from Visual Studio just like we used to, and I should be able to now open up the fighter template just as it was in UE4, but now in UE5. And you may get, you know, one of these things. Trying to say you're blocking it because it's the first time that I'm opening it like this. Now we're at this stage, and we're going to see if we can play the fighter. And if we can, great. Then we're good to go. Okay. And you can see that it is opening. So at least we were able to get this far. We'll go ahead and try and play. All the shaders are going to be compiling. Textures are getting set up. Remember, I had to disable the one plugin, so some of the stages might not work or might not be completely there. Let's go ahead and test it out. Make sure I resize it for you. Okay. Let's play right here. It's going to be a little slow because of everything still compiling and okay. Maybe very slow. Lots needs to be finished here, to be compiled here. Okay, and it's you know, it's struggling. It's not really meant to be played this way, but you can tell that it's actually working as intended. See, it's very reminiscent of the fighting game tutorial. And that's good enough for me. I mean, feel free. You're going to have to try and test out all your mechanics. Just make sure that they look good. But honestly, as far as I can tell, everything looks fine and plays fine. I can even try some of my combos here if I want. Some of my commands, like the fireball. Okay, the next one we're going to do is the FPS tutorial. So we're going to take this guy and we're going to try and convert it to Unreal 5. It's going to be the same process, and we're going to open a copy. And once it's done, as with the fighting game, I'll then go over what it is that I have to change, if anything, and sometimes the end result will be a little bit different than what you had before as well. Some of the functions may have changed or not. They may not be able to be built with some of the things that are in there. You know, some of the code might have been deprecated, and we may need to adjust a few things once we get in there. So once we do create this copy, I'll go through the projects and actually run them and make sure that they look good, at least at a glance. We could always update more later, but we want to make sure it's not completely broken where it won't run or something like that. This one was actually much faster. I didn't even have to cut. So it was able to start the copy. All right, we're generating code, which most likely means we're in the clear. It could still fail to build, but if you're reaching this point, it looks like it's able to appropriately figure out, you know, okay, this stuff is good with the Unreal 5 copy, and it knows that it's able to be used in Unreal 5. So we'll see if it's able to build successfully as well. If not, we'll fix it when it's done generating. Okay, and it looks like it was able to generate the project files and potentially successfully build the code. We'll find out in a second here. It is, in fact, loading the FPS tutorial in Unreal Engine 5. So it's going to do this initial thing where it's basically generating all necessary generated files. It's also going to have to do things like recompile shaders and basically keep a cache of everything, you know, create the folder structure. You can see that it actually added the FPS tutorial here. So 5, it still says early access, but it's basically fully released at this point. Okay, and it was actually able to do that successfully as well. So now it has loaded in, and again it's going to compile shaders and have to do a few other things, but if I shrink this down, and that was like super small, just want to make sure you could see the whole thing. Something like that. This is the new Unreal Engine 5, and so we can play right away before it's even done compiling shaders, just to play around with some things. But you can see that it looks pretty good, even with, you know, even doing it early and everything's not ready. The viewport is much larger and a bit of a different size. There's some changes to things like the progress bars, but overall, when I'm actually looking at this, I can see that my weapons are working as intended. I have damage working as intended, projectiles being spawned. I have pretty much everything working as it should. And so, yeah, I can pretty much safely say that the first-person shooter tutorial series up to episode 30 is good to go. It's able to be converted without any without any changes being required. So you can basically just convert it and use it. If you like the editor window like I do, then you can click the ellipsis here, by the way, and do new editor window, and it should look just like you're familiar with. Cool. And so we're good to go here. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, so here we are. We've made the fighter template and the FPS tutorial, both in different versions, and converting them to Unreal Engine 5. Let's go to the third-person / action RPG tutorial series next. So I was using 4.26 for that one. We're just going to do the same process. We're going to open it up. We're going to let it do its thing, and we'll see how it goes. Okay. And with that, it looks like the third-person and action RPG tutorial series was also able to generate project code, project files, and the code without any issues, without any edits. So we're going to see when it opens up here if there's any changes that need to be made. Okay, here we go. So that's looking a lot more familiar. Again, it's going to prepare all the textures and shaders, but if we are to play the game right away, regardless of all that stuff and how hard my computer is running, You can see that everything seems to be working as intended still. So everything seems to be good with this series as well, up to episode 29. And if you're including the additional episodes from the third-person tutorial series, they all work as well. So every episode up until about episode 35 of the third-person tutorial series is covered in this, and it is all completely included. This time we're going to check on our Super Smash Bros. Template as well as the Platform Fighter template. They're the same one, but that's the one we're going to be checking now. Right here is my SSB template 4.26. We're going to open it up. Same as the other cases, we'll wait for it to open up here. See if anything needs changed right off the bat, or if it's playable. Okay, and it has successfully loaded, so let's check it out like we always do. Let's go ahead and shrink this guy down. Okay, and the shaders are still compiling, but to save some time, let's just hop right in here and actually let's do it like this so we can see it like we're used to. Okay, and you can see everything's still loading in, but it does look pretty good. I can still attack, move around, items are spawning in the scene, I can pick them up. Theoretically, I'd be able to attack with them as well. Let's make sure. Yep. Let's make sure I can throw as well if I can remember. There we go. And so, yeah, it looks like I can do everything in my Platform Fighter as well. So things are looking pretty good on this end. We can go ahead and close this guy. So Twitch game here is our side-scroller tutorial series, the live stream series. And this will cover until about episode 11. But let's play and see if it lines up with what we would expect. Let's go into new editor window, as usual. So, okay, everything looks good here. And we ended up dying. I think everything is actually good with the side-scroller tutorial series as well. No issues. Just crazy. But that's how good Unreal Engine 5 is, that it's actually able to allow us to convert these projects without any problems. Okay. Save that one and close it. All of them work the same way, where we're actually able to build these solutions. So I would recommend for the other solutions to delete the solution and just generate a new one anyway. You don't always have to do that. Sometimes things will pick up on it. I haven't had enough experience with Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5 to know if it's ever going to work automatically for that when converting. But I'd recommend doing it anyway. It's kind of a standard when you're updating your project. You just generate the new Visual Studio project files. So I'd recommend doing that and making sure you can build the solutions in each of them. Okay, you see that it was built or generated successfully. Let's make sure that we can open it up and build it. We don't even have to open any specific files to test the build. So come in here, build solution, and just let it run right away. Just make sure. You can be a little bit slower with it and let everything finish up, but I'm just trying to check all of these, so I figure I might as well do it right away. Okay, and excellent news, the FPS tutorial is able to be built without any changes to the code. Try out the third-person tutorial and action RPG tutorial series next. We're just going to generate those Visual Studio project files. Open up the solution. and immediately go and build the solution. Okay, so we're actually good to go here. You can close this guy, the third-person tutorial and action RPG tutorial series. Builds without any changes to the code. We're going to try out the Platform Fighter and Super Smash Bros. Tutorial series next. So I'm going to generate the Visual Studio project files. We're going to open it up. And we're going to build the solution right away. You can see that it was a success extremely quickly, so we're good to go. And the last one here is the side scroller template. We're going to do the same thing. Very familiar with it by now. Generate the new Visual Studio project files for this. Go ahead and launch it. And we'll go ahead and build it. And even it was able to be successfully built. So that pretty much wraps this episode up. That's all our series to date of me making this voiceover converted to Unreal Engine 5 pretty much flawlessly. The fighting game, I did have to remove that one plugin if I want to continue in Unreal 5. So I'll probably keep working in Unreal 4 to have those stages until either an update comes out or I can get something to make them work with Unreal 5. But for your projects, hopefully you're now able to determine what plugins you want to use and if you can bring them over or install them to your engine, as well as different methods of fixing up issues with the code or changes that are required to build and launch your project in Unreal Engine 5. But as long as that goes smoothly, you'll be able to be working on your project in UE5 in no time at all. So anyway, guys, that's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please subscribe and consider helping me out on Patreon or with a YouTube membership. I really, really appreciate everyone who has gone out of the way to support me. I'm glad you're enjoying all the episodes and just want to send a huge, huge thank you to you. If you had any issues with converting any of your projects to Unreal 5, feel free to join the Discord community. There's a link in the description you can click. It'll bring you there for free and I'll be happy to assist. Anyway, guys, like I said, that's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Shawnthebro and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.